Hi, this is Greg Johnson, Director of Media Development for Blue Book. And I'm here today talking about 2019 produce industry and retail trends with our retail editor, Pamela Schneider. You wrote a couple columns on this week, and I know the first part of it, you really talked about some of the more mainstream trends, the things that we saw at Fresh Summit, for instance, such as continued growth of cauliflower and mushrooms in different forms. But in this video, let's talk about some of the more out there trends that we haven't seen yet. For instance, I was intrigued about all the info you found about cabbage.
Yeah, cabbage, I think, is one of those unsung heroes, and it kind of goes back to what I wrote a couple of weeks ago, kind of a preview to Food Trends 2019 by looking at the has-beens, the ones that we were eating 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, of course, was the Great Recession, and everyone was looking to be frugal and cut back their budget. And I think we're coming full circle with a lot of uncertainty in what's going on with the economy, and cabbage kind of is coming up as not only a comfort food, but a cheap comfort food. There are a lot of ways to make it delicious and to make it fit into some of the trendier items that we're seeing. For example, you can cook cabbage in an Instant Pot. That's one of the number one items still among consumers. Kroger even pointed out Instant Pots as one of the top sellers for a Christmas gift at their stores. And you can also tie cabbage into another trend, and that is gut health. And I know that our Produce Blueprints folks are working on stories about that for the coming year, but you can ferment cabbage into sauerkraut and kimchi, the Korean sauerkraut. So I think cabbage is going to be trendy definitely for retail buyers, food service buyers.
Yeah, I love the idea of making your own cabbage into sauerkraut. I think that's fantastic. But
it's literally salt and cabbage. That's it. It's super easy.
Two ingredients I love. Yeah. Another thing that you keyed on are the continuing uptick of the cleansing and juicing, and produce departments need to fill this niche and demand from consumers, don't they?
Well, yeah, and I've heard over the last couple of years, you see things go back and forth as far as juicing fads, things like okra and celery juice is the big trendy one right now. And it all kind of ties back to this juicing trend. That's even from the 1940s. The master cleanse is basically lemon and cayenne pepper and maple syrup. I even saw that book merchandised in a Whole Foods produce department next to the lemons once. So that I don't think is going to go away anytime soon. But it's also getting some new players in there. I mentioned okra and celery, but also things like ginger. When you look at the trend line from Google Trends for ginger versus turmeric, ginger's actually spiking again, and turmeric's kind of like, yeah, it's hanging in there, but it's not seeing a dramatic increase like ginger. Ginger is certainly more accessible, and of course it doesn't stain everything in your kitchen like turmeric does.
Well, how about the any trends on ethnic food? You noticed a different one we should keep an eye on this year, right?
Every year they come up with which ethnic food is going to be hot. You know, Mediterranean food continues to gain prominence, but kind of seeing the shift toward Middle Eastern and even into African foods. And these are wild out there ones, more like a food service trend you would see. But I think it ties in well with what consumers want to do with things like cooking greens. Kale is kind of, I don't know, with the hipsters, it might be over as far as being trendy, but we're looking at ways to try to make other greens like collards and mustard and even broccoli greens into something that's delicious, and African foods definitely pair well with that.
Well, we'll make sure and check back a year from now and check in with a scorecard on some of these predictions so we can grade you. Maybe.
Are you skeptical? You don't believe me?
I believe you. I just want to hold you accountable.
I'm all for accountability and I'm all for numbers. So let's keep an eye on it for next year.
All right.
Thanks, Greg.